Good morning, Super Freak. I am sitting here in my office this morning with my fluffy dressing gown on and my cup of tea beside me, and the sun's coming up and the birds are waking up and the cows are definitely awake chasing the neighbor to get some breakfast. And my dog is definitely awake. And it's been raining for the first time in what feels like all summer, which is very different to how it's been for the last few years here in Australia with so much rain. And it just feels like one of those snuggly early morning nature appreciation moments. I can see a kookaburra outside the window getting some breakfast. Nothing as wild as last week's episode where there was a huge goanna outside my window hiding up a fence from the dogs. But hey, bush life, here we are. I love it. Absolutely love it. On that note, let's segue into something that has nothing to do with what I just said. I want to offer you an episode today that will absolutely stretch your thinking. So if you have hit a plateau, if you've been working towards your big life goal or any big goal for a while and it's really not happening as fast as you'd like it to, if you're starting to question you're even meant for this at all, you're getting impatient, but somewhere deep inside you know that there is no timeline to what you're creating, this mammoth episode is for you because you know what? My friend, you might not actually be on the path that you think you're on. And if I'm right, you're doing something completely different to many people that you know, and not seeing the path that you're actually on is going to cause you a lot of pain and stress and questioning, which takes up a lot of mental bandwidth that is really best spent on other things for you. And being able to see the path that you're actually on, which is called the exponential path, is going to give you a completely different perspective of what it should look like and how you're supposed to be doing it and how you do it. So what I'm sharing here today will hopefully help you see things from a very different, very important perspective and support you to stay on your path, if that's what you really want to do, of course, and to know what to do, what to expect, how to think, and how to be on this path. What I'm talking about is incremental versus exponential growth path. I'm talking about what most people do versus what some people choose to do with their life and with their growth path and with their experiences and practices and businesses. And they are two completely different games with two completely different timelines and two completely different outcomes. If you're on an exponential growth journey, your life, your timeline, and your results are going to look so different and on different timelines to someone who's on an incremental journey. It's really important to distinguish the two so that you can acknowledge and honor your own path and also get over that feeling like nothing's happening and you're plateauing, you're feeling impatient, you feel like maybe it's not working. You might even be questioning your sanity. I'm going to tell you what to do with that in a moment too. I'll explain more as we go on. But before I go any further, I want to let it be known. One of these paths is not better or worse than the other. One's not smarter, one's not faster. Both can be chosen and loved, and they're both wonderful for their own reasons. And I'm speaking to you today, you who is on an exponential journey, which I believe truly, if you're listening to this podcast, even if your life feels like it's got limitations right now, you're probably on an exponential journey of some sort. But anyway, I'm not here to poo-poo our choices in life. I'm not here to poo-poo an incremental journey. I'm here to help you realize you have choices everywhere and to make the ones that suit you. So let's get into it. Enough babble. What does incremental and exponential even mean? I want to tell you a story. This is the bit you don't see. So 15 years ago, I was truly a shell of the version of me I am today. I'm not perfect, but when I look back, yeah, I'm sure we can all relate. 15 years ago, I started this business that you're listening to the podcast right now. I had chronic fatigue. It was also a recession. Both of those are stories for another day, I'm sure. But I was not who I am today. I'm completely different, as I'm sure you are too. 15 years is a long time. But even like 7 or 8 years ago, which sounds like a long time ago, but to me, honestly, it feels like yesterday. My life was totally upside down compared to where it is now. It was so very different. I'd been running my business for about 7 or 8 years already, and I was making enough money to pay for my life, probably just under 6 figures, I suppose, in my business. But I wasn't really paying attention to revenue, actually. More so, I was paying attention to if I could afford to travel. And I lived in a really beautiful part of the world near Byron Bay, but I felt completely stagnant and at a plateau. Like I said, I was making money. Things weren't necessarily wrong, but I was working for it, like really working hard. Again, hard work is not bad. I'll say this, I felt like if I worked harder, I could make more, but I didn't actually have much more in me to keep going like that. It was not really sustainable for me to work much harder. I was living in a share house as well with two amazing housemates. I love them, but I would have preferred to have lived by myself. I was at that stage in life, or with someone that I loved. I was single. In fact, the most recent relationship I'd been in before that had ended, and it was a domestic violence case. And I needed to get a restraining order on my ex-boyfriend. That is, again, a much bigger story for another day, which I will share when I'm ready because it's important, but not today. Today, I'm painting you a picture. I was stuck. I was stagnant. I didn't know what the next move could be. I thought I'd come to a brick wall or a roadblock in my life. I wasn't necessarily unhappy. In fact, I would say it was one of the happiest times of my life. Where I was living and who I was living with and the friends and the lifestyle I had, and I was surfing all the time. But when it came to really thinking about what was next and the fact that I really wanted to own my own space and start building my wealth in a new way and make more money and own my time a bit more and have a bit more to play with, I didn't know at all how my business, where I was doing as much as I could, was going to be able to provide the next level of my life. And I wasn't really willing to let go of my business, but I just didn't see a way forward. Stagnant. Now, my dear friend, listen, feeling stagnant is natural. In fact, in life, we contract before we expand all the time. If you're relating to this feeling right now and you can genuinely argue with me about all the ways in which it feels impossible to stop doing what you're doing and still keep the life that you have, like you feel stagnant in that way, but you actually want more time and more money, more freedom, more something, please know this, stagnancy is sacred. It's the sacred pause before the next bout of growth. It's important and it's natural and it's to be expected. And if you're in it, it doesn't mean something is wrong. It's an invitation to allow the next insight, the next breakthrough, the next chapter to emerge. And you have to pause in order for that to happen. There's always a path of least resistance, and our consciousness is like water. It will flow given the chance. So all that time ago, I had no idea my life was about to completely change again. I felt like I was at a roadblock. Things were great, but I didn't see how they could get any better. I had no idea things were about to completely transform, that everything I was working towards was going to happen all at once, but it did. And this is what happens, like the textbook example of what happens when you're on an exponential growth path. So what is exponential growth? Do you know what an exponential curve looks like? I have an example in the show notes for you, which you can find at haleycar.tv. But if you can imagine a graph with a line vertically up the left-hand side and then horizontally across the bottom like a graph, an incremental growth path starts at the bottom left and fairly predictably moves up across the chart at, say, like a 45-degree angle, for example. But an exponential curve starts in the bottom left, same place, scoops across, like almost scrapes across the bottom of the chart at about, say, like a 3-degree angle. And then right at the end of the chart, when it looks like it's going to just continue being flat, starts to make a sharp, almost 90-degree curve straight to the top of the chart, crossing over the incremental gap or graph line and going straight up. Incremental and exponential growth journeys start at the same place and finish very differently and look the opposite of how they're going to go about halfway along. And there's a whole psychology required that's different if you're on an exponential path. And that's exactly what I want to talk with you about today because it's really important. The two paths have very different outcomes awaiting them. If you're only focused on halfway or even 3/4 of the way along the graph where the incremental growth path is steady and increasing and the exponential graph is somewhere still like down the bottom, and it really does look and feel when you're in it like nothing is happening down there. My friend, this can look and feel like a giant plateau, like everything is stagnant or paused or taking too long. I want you to be able to self-identify if you're on an exponential path, and I want you to understand how to think and what you need to stay on your game here. Because at this point in the path, too many people give up. They start listening to the people in their lives who love them, who care deeply about them, and who want them to be happy and comfortable all the time, but who are on an incremental path, and they take their advice. Mistake number one. And this advice is not wrong. It's not even coming from the wrong place. It's just that it's no different to, say, a professional basketballer giving a cat rules of life. It's not relevant. Exponential growth paths are available to anyone from any walk of life and in any industry. But often where I meet people playing the game and not realizing that they're in it is when you're a coach, or you're a creative, or you're an entrepreneur, an artist, a performer, someone who is operating in a creative or entrepreneurial field where there is limitless possibility and no cap really on how many people can create what they want or reach the top. But only a small percentage of people actually stay the course and wind up living a life they never thought possible. But there is room at the top for you, and there is room at the top for all of us on an exponential growth path. And I'm going to say something bold here and argue that the reason why so many people don't make it to where they want to be has less to do with luck than the fact that they're following the rules of playing an incremental game when they're actually playing an exponential one. And I'll explain what I mean. And when I say luck, it has less to do with luck, but we can also break down what's really happening when it looks like luck on the exponential game as well. And I'll explain what I mean. So on a path of incremental growth, that straight line, the road to success is mapped out from the beginning. All you need to do is really show up, work hard, keep putting one foot in front of the other, make the right moves with your money, stay around for as long as possible, and you'll really get there. Supposedly, right? There's a lot of flaws to that plan, but that's the idea, right? Classic example is I go to school, I get good grades, I get a degree, which means I secure a better paying job, which if I work for as long as I can and save my money, I can buy a home or investment, start slowly growing my wealth until the day I retire. Classic example, nothing wrong with it. And really, again, I want to say before we go on, there's nothing wrong with this whatsoever. I actually really see the benefit in it, right? Some people are simply just not cut out for the exponential game. Some people are, and they don't think that they are because it's hard. And that level of perceived risk and this incremental path is the best place for them to thrive without having to deal with the worries and fears and the adrenaline of the exponential path, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now, there are still worries and risks on the incremental path, but they're just different. It's things like time, right? If you haven't started early enough, if you don't come from money, you'll think you're either starting over when you start something new, or that you're behind if you're getting somewhere later in life or starting later in life. If you lose your job, there's a lot of fear about needing to find security based on an external circumstance in a way. I'm just giving you examples. If something goes awry in your life, like you have a financial setback, like a divorce or an illness, it can once again feel like you're quote unquote behind. You can see where you need to go and how long it's going to take. But the good thing about being on an incremental path, you don't have to worry about whether you're doing the right thing. You don't have to worry about what the predictable, repeatable steps are. And you probably don't have to worry about the people in your life worrying about you so much either. And you definitely don't have to worry about getting paid on a regular basis once you've secured like a job or something. It makes it much easier to do certain things that are predictable. For example, to build wealth, like buying a property with finance. On an exponential path, there is no road to success. It's not linear. It's not even a straight line. There will be plenty of people though who will spruik it to you that they know the path, right? They have a 6-step plan for you, but no one who ever created anything like anything magnificent or seemingly impossible had a 6-step path laid out in front of them, right? But the path of exponential growth is one that needs to factor in the unpredictability of time and opportunity. You could turn a corner and run into the love of your life, or it could happen way down the line. That's incredible, and it's also disastrously petrifying for the wrong people who want a level of predictability and security in life. And that's why I say there's no right or wrong. It's just what's right and wrong for you. G'day friends, I'm interrupting this podcast. It's Hayley here. I want to invite you to something. If you are experiencing a plateau for yourself, maybe a financial plateau, you are spinning your wheels and getting the same results month on month or even year on year, or maybe even you feel like you're getting less results than you were before. Maybe you are working harder than ever and you just can't seem to break through to that next level for you. I have something for you. It's called the Plateau Playbook. And this is a free masterclass that I have created for you. And it's all about how to, well, there are 5 mistakes that people are making. They are not strategy. They are not mindset based. It's bigger than that. 5 mistakes you're making that you don't even know that you're making that are causing you to spin your wheels and not be able to break through this plateau. Listen, plateaus are the most incredible opportunity to transform everything that you are doing and make it better for you if you do it well. I happen to be an expert in plateaus. I used to be an athlete. They are so normal, but it's really important that you make the most of it. So I want to invite you to the Plateau Playbook Masterclass. It's free. You can come. I'll leave a link below this podcast episode for you. And I really hope to see you there. Okay, let's get back into this awesome mammoth episode. See you soon. Exponential growth, it's about the way. It's about the process. It's about the journey, which sounds like a load of hooey. But if you don't make it about understanding the way and enjoying the process, you'll be in a lot of pain and uncertainty and really high cortisol stress. Because again, you look at that graph, there's a long ass period of time where it looks like nothing is happening. And in fact, if you are on an exponential path of growth, say you have a business and you're spending a lot of time, money, and energy investing in its foundations from scratch, you could look around at people who are on an incremental path with secure jobs and homes and predictability in their lives and feel like you have made a huge mistake if you don't know that you're on an exponential path, that is. And this was one of the biggest challenges I found for myself, for my own experience. And I'm still growing and changing and moving, but I want to share this with you right now in case you're experiencing it too. So to give you some examples of the exponential path, firstly, I told you the story of my own circumstances about 7 or 8 years ago when life looked very different. But you can also think about it using the metaphor of investing, right? If you invest a small amount of money now, way down the line, that money's earned money, and then those earnings on your money have also made money. And then down the line, that one small move that you made investing initially is worth so much more in ways that you couldn't have predicted. This is an example of exponentiality where we're just talking about it in a growth and a creating impossible things frame of mind. Think about playing the guitar, right? I learn the chords and the strings. I start putting them together. I practice and practice. And down the line, I can freestyle music and like sing at the same time and play anything. And I can create music, beautiful. I actually can't do this. This is an example, right? But you could create music, beautiful, gorgeous, unheard music from something super small. I'd say the motto of an exponential life needs to be anything is possible, anytime. There's a young woman in London that I've been following lately. Her name is Hermione Olivia, and she was a serial entrepreneur in Sydney. She worked in PR and she moved to London as a single woman who ran a travel blog 10 years ago, not knowing where it was going to take her. In fact, in a recent interview I heard with her, she talked about how she wasn't even sure if she was going to stay in London, but then due to a connection in Sydney that she had, that she did some consulting work with in PR, she's now the CEO of the EU and UK branch of JS Health Vitamins, which is a huge brand in the wellness industry. And within the last 2 years, she met and married the love of her life and is about to have her first child. It's an incredible story. She's an extraordinary example of where anything is possible can take you, because she didn't start at the company working from the ground up. She kind of came in from a different place. There are plenty of stories of people who were in seemingly just the right place at the right time, and they've wound up with huge roles in television and movie production, or with their books landing huge deals that turn into movies like J.K. Rowling. I've spoken about her on the podcast before. And I'm sure we all have a friend, right, or someone we know who went from being eternally single to married with a family and a house and a dog and all the things that they thought would evade them within a very short period of time. In fact, I have 2 family members who are experiencing the fruits of exponential dating right now. Maybe you also know or see entrepreneurs or artists or creatives or coaches who seem to be an overnight success, who come out of nowhere, or who seem to have so much, but when you trace it all the way back to the beginning, many of them started from behind, right? If you're looking at an incremental growth path, I'm thinking about Oprah right now. but they jumped ahead, quote unquote ahead, there's no behind or ahead, when they stayed on their own exponential path. And like when you retell the stories or you think about who these people are, you try to look for clues as to what these people were doing right or what they knew or what privileges they had, you'll see that there are very predictable and repeatable insights and character traits that we all can apply to live our best exponential game of life and eradicate some of the challenges that we see when it comes to people feeling like they are starting from behind wherever we choose. I'm going to take you through some of those right now, but I want you to know they're not a 6-step process. That's what incremental thinking wants. It wants security, facts, predictability. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Tick the boxes. No. Exponential thinking requires a framework to operate within, but its biggest strength is the unpredictability and opportunity recognition. I'll get into that. The first thing you need to understand with exponential thinking and exponential mindset, and so this is if you have already you're going to self-identify as you continue to listen to this podcast, but the first thing you need to understand, and you might have already paid it, but there's a price of entry. You need at first a vision of where you want to go, and that vision has to be held pretty damn loosely. In an article written by Mark Bonchek in the Harvard Business Review about creating an exponential mindset when it comes to digital business, which I'll link below, he says that, quote, "A good incremental business plan enables you to see exactly how you will get from here to there. But exponential models are not straight. They are like a bend in the road that prevents you from seeing around the corner, except in this case, the curve goes up," end quote. He also says, the incremental mindset focuses on making something better, while the exponential mindset makes something different. Incremental is satisfied with 10%, exponential is out for 10x. Okay, so we have a loose vision, a foggy vision, because nobody can see around that corner and we got to be okay with it. We have to be okay with uncertainty and not knowing. No, we have to be better than okay with it. We have to enjoy it. We have to embrace it, accept it, and learn to enjoy it so we can do this without burning ourselves out. This requires courage. That's the next thing. There's no straight line, no step-by-step 6 plan to success. There's only certain uncertainty. When might you need courage on the exponential path? Well, starting's one thing, but maybe it's also then the courage to walk away from an unhealthy relationship or to say no to an incredible opportunity that will distract you from your big, foggy vision, like a huge adventure that will be like incredible, but ultimately take so much time away from what you're doing that you would lose momentum. Think about when you first kick off on the exponential path. You might feel fear. You might have people thinking that what you're doing is risky and being afraid for you. You need to have some kind of understanding that you can't even see where you can truly go. And because it's only on this exponential path that these opportunities that you're looking for will open up, you need to be able to hold that and be okay with people not really understanding. And then you need to be brave enough to get going on your own, even with people not understanding and being opposed. You'll also have a feeling of aliveness and excitement and that sparkly feeling at the beginning of anything, but it's essentially a higher risk path, perceptively. Now then, if we trace the exponential line along the graph, right, we're watching the path of incremental growth build up above us slowly, steadily, surely, predictably. And as we continue along, on the exponential path, we can really start to feel like nothing is happening. Oh my God, we might even think we might have made the wrong choice. We think we've really stuffed it up. We've got friends telling us what they're up to. And while it's not about comparison, we can't really help but compare ourselves to the difference between this life that we have chosen and a much safer path we could have chosen. We start to feel behind. We still have a vision. We still get what we're doing. But suddenly it doesn't feel so exciting and adventurous. It feels a little stale. We might have hit a plateau. This is where patience comes into the framework. You need patience to get through this part. And let me tell you, after 15 years of coaching in this space, patience is way harder than action. Most people at this point start thinking they just need to try harder, work harder, get more done, pay more team members, work on their mindset, and they risk overcomplicating things, overspending, overworking, and seriously burning out. We need to accept and understand that patience is all that's required at this stage, because we're building something that sees results over time, like an investor or like someone learning the guitar. Then it's discipline. Discipline comes in here. It goes hand in hand with patience. Did you know? We need the discipline at this point to both stay the path when, oh my God, it is so tempting to run away and to not overwork ourselves and get caught up in the idea that we must be doing something wrong or missing something. We need discipline of thought, discipline of what we surround ourselves with and whose opinions we let get through, because this is also a point where criticism, both internally and externally, can start to get a lot louder. It's not something you can avoid. It's actually part of it. And it's a great sign that you're on an exponential path. And in fact, you may even, dare I say it, start to think you're a bit crazy. I know that sounds awful, and I'd never want you to override your intuition, but honestly, it's so common at this point on the exponential curve. I've experienced it in just about every single one of my mentors has experienced it, and certainly my clients all experience it too. There's a point where you start to wonder if you're actually just crazy, because it feels like everyone is telling you you should be somewhere else and it's not working, and you keep going despite the results not working, and the people telling you you should be somewhere else can't really see what you can see. That is, of course, if you're surrounded by the wrong people or you're listening to the wrong people for the advice that you need. This is exactly why I hold group coaching spaces, so my clients can not only have coaching along the path, but so they can be surrounded by people who are on that same exponential path and feel connected to people who get what they're up to. So the discipline is shut out the noise, but also don't overwork and be patient. The discipline of patience. That is actually so hard. Okay, so now we reach a point in the curve, and this is for you if you feel like you're in a plateau. Are you ready? This is what's going to happen next. After you've questioned your sanity, possibly you'll look ahead and you're getting closer to the curve, but you don't know it's a curve and you don't know you're on it. So you're staring at what looks like a mountain of things to do, of all the things you'd need to know and understand and be proficient at to be able to hold that level of success that you want. And you're getting closer in proximity to it, and it feels higher the closer you get, meaning you're probably seeing people nearby and around you. You probably even know them who are starting to get to and sit at the top of their own mountain, and you couldn't feel further away from it, or you feel like you're so close, but you have no idea how you're going to scale that thing, how it's going to happen. And it really starts to feel impossible, like a wild, super freaky act of nature would be the only thing that could take you from here to there. And this is where one of the most important parts of the exponential mindset kicks in. It's an openness and a knowing that anything is possible. At this point in the curve, you've put in the work. And if you've done it well, you've focused more on who you need to become to get there than you have focused on trying to articulate and clarify the foggy result and get to something you can't see that you don't know about. Focusing on who you need to be is what gets you up that curve. And I'll explain why. Because in the game of exponential growth, at any point, you could wind up in a situation where you meet someone or something happens to go viral, or an opportunity crosses your path and you're the perfect person because of the work you've done to take what we call in coaching a quantum leap. You take the opportunity and it speeds up the game. You might have heard the term quantum leap before, but here's what it means. A quantum leap is a small step in a new direction that completely changes the trajectory of the result or of life. It's showing up at an audition as usual and landing a lead role in a major motion picture that skyrockets you onto a huge different path. It's doubling the price of what you charge for your art and selling it to the right person who would never have purchased it for less, and they tell all their friends about your art and all of a sudden you're the next big thing. It's walking into the coffee shop and bumping into the love of your life. It's going to a party and meeting someone you would never have met if you weren't there in that moment, who introduces you to someone only you can help, and it changes both of your lives. It's the point in time where your investments start seeing returns that can only happen over a long period of time of patience, of discipline, and you've had the patience and discipline not to touch it. This is the bottom of the curve. It's bubbly. It's scintillating, it's crunchy, it's edgy, it's still very uncertain, but there's an aliveness, there's an energy. And at this point in the framework, you need agility. You need to be ready to spot an opportunity, recognize that it's an opportunity and say yes. You need to be nimble enough to know that the ride can go anywhere from this point, and hold that in your heart while you continue to take disciplined, patient, appropriate action. Just keep writing every day. Just keep showing up to the practice of the skill. Keep going to the gym, keep connecting, keep doing the things that make you feel good. Keep taking the steps that are in your control. And finally, when things are on the up, this is where we start getting into the super refined energetics of manifesting that people want to talk about because it feels so good, but without all that other work, it's fluff. It's like spiritual bypassing, right? The next step is control. You need to know what to control and where to let go of control. You need to control your thoughts, control your efforts, so you're doing what you can, but no more than what you need to. This is similar to discipline, but it's about understanding your leadership role in the game now, controlling what you can control and letting go of the rest and leading from that place. Also recognizing and recognition that on an exponential path, there is more that is out of your control than what is within your control, and not getting caught up on focusing on what's out of your control. Your effort here is really to define and search for the 1 to 3 things that are the things you can control and that you need to focus on. And these will be the things that set all the other wheels in motion. They're the difference that make the difference, and you just focus on those. Then we get to the things that, once again, sound a little bit fluffy, but they're the refined technologies of manifesting, of making things true, that add fuel to the curve when you've done the appropriate work. And I will say this till the cows come home, they're home, when you've done the appropriate work. Following what feels good, following what feels expansive, what your heart and your gut and your soul feel like are a yes. In other words, your intuition. Your intuition will be super dialed in at this point if you've done the work, and it will be your trusty compass for where to go next. Things will come up along your path that you are unexpected, that are a risk, that are far beyond, so far beyond what you could have imagined or predicted for yourself, and back a little further on your exponential growth track. Some of these things, these opportunities, will appear at first like they are a distraction. But when you're no longer at that place on the path now where you need that patience and discipline, if you're further along the exponential path and it's starting to curve, you'll receive an opportunity and you'll know it's right. You'll know it's going to slipstream you further up that mountain. It's going to be like a super freaky act of nature, because everything outside of your logic will say it is. It'll say it's right. You got to do this thing. And when you look back at so many people's path where you think, oh my gosh, was it luck? Was it just they were in the right place at the right time? Well, sure, we could say that, but I'd much prefer to break down with you like the characteristics. And so many times you listen to the interviews, read the books, you will hear there were certain points in time where they had to trust their gut over everything, and they'd done the work to be able to hear what was true. And those moves, there are ones that don't work, but there are ones that do. And they are the ones that are the difference, that make the difference. And then finally, the final part of the framework is now sustainability. So the more rested you are, the better you feel, the more at peace you are, the more regulated in your nervous system you are, the further you can go, and you're away. Are you on an exponential path? And if you are, where are you up to? Let's recap this framework of the stages. They're not steps, they're a framework of where we find ourselves on an exponential growth path. So number 1 is you got to lose vision. Good. We don't know where it's going to go. Number 2, you need courage. Number 3, you need patience. Number 4, you need discipline. Number 5, you need an exponential mindset and openness to opportunities and knowing that anything is possible. Number 6, flexibility or agility. Number 7, knowing what to control and letting go of the rest. Number 8, intuition. And number 9, sustainability. Now, I think one of the mistakes would be to think that you can look at someone and make an assumption about whether they were on an incremental or an exponential path. It's not about what it looks like. It's about how someone thinks, really. Sometimes what it looks like on the outside is literally like someone is on no path because nothing is happening or not much is happening. But exponential growth requires an exponential mindset. And you can, like I said, be in any industry at any point and it can happen for you. And you can switch to thinking exponentially, and it can make a difference to any path that you are on. So in a future episode, I'm going to share with you some of the core beliefs that a person with an exponential mindset has. But for today, I just want you to think about this framework and self-identify. Where are you on the exponential path of growth, if that's you? Let me know in the comments under this episode over at hayleycarr.tv, or write to me on social media and let me know what landed for you. I would love to hear from you. I absolutely adore coaching people on this particular path. And I adore hearing you self-identify with the different stages and have that little pop of clarity, like, oh, okay, right, I know what to do here. I know I just need patience. I know I need to get more disciplined. And that breakthrough is a life-changing breakthrough, a life-changing insight. So let me know. I would love to hear from you. Okay, friends, I really hope you enjoyed this mammoth episode today. I hope it serves you. I hope it stretched you. Stay curious, stay open. Everything you want is so much closer than you think. I will see you soon. Ciao.